Welcome back to BNG Hockey, where it's always black and gold. The injuries just keep piling up for the Boston Bruins, and it can be kind of hard to keep track on where everyone's at. So I figured I'd go ahead and make an injury update video. Let's get started. We'll start things off with the latest injury to goaltender Linus Ullmark. He took a shot off the mask in last night's game against the Ottawa Senators. It was kind of a weird situation where he talked to the ref about it when it happened, but he continued to play the rest of the period, but then he didn't return for the rest of the game. Jeremy Swayman took over, and unfortunately, they still lost to the Senators. Now, it's already been confirmed that Jeremy Swayman will start in tomorrow's matinee against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Linus Ullmark is only day-to-day for now, and Bruce Cassidy didn't sound too concerned about it, but Ullmark didn't practice, and they called up Troy Grosenick from the Providence Bruins. And this got me thinking. I know this goes for pretty much any NHL team when they lose one of their top two guys, but it's scary how quickly the goaltending situation goes from being what I thought was one of the Bruins' biggest strengths this season to one of their biggest weaknesses. You go from a tandem that's played really well, and right now I'd be okay with either guy starting when it comes to playoff time, to a guy in Troy Grosenick who's an NHL veteran who's pretty unproven, or a guy like Kyle Kaiser who I actually like but is very young and very unproven. So that gets scary pretty quickly if the Bruins goaltenders continue to get banged up as we go in this playoff stretch. But it does sound like Ullmark will be okay. It's only day-to-day for now, and hopefully it doesn't become a problem, and the Bruins have a strong tandem going into the playoffs. Moving on now to Brandon Carlo, who, unlike Linus Ullmark, did take part in full Bruins practice today, and that's a great sign for both Carlo and the team. Now, I did think it was interesting that Bruce Cassidy said they want to wait and see how he feels in the morning before they confirm if he'll be playing against the Penguins. I do think the fact that it's a matinee game does change things a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually skips that game and then will play in the next Bruins game just to give him a little bit more time. But he did take part in full practice, and they do kind of want to get out of this losing streak and try and finish in the top three in their division. So if that's the case, I wouldn't be surprised if they rush him back into the lineup as well. And it's technically not rushing him. If he did take part in full practice today, you would think he'd be ready to go. But I did want to throw in there that I have been concerned almost all season. In fact, I've thought about making a video about it. Brandon Carlo has not looked like himself, and we know he's had some really bad luck when it comes to injuries these past couple of seasons, and you have to wonder if that's starting to add up on the young defenseman. Now, I really hope it's not. He's one of my favorite Bruins, and they really need him. It doesn't matter who you play in these playoffs, you need a healthy Brandon Carlo if you're going to win. So it's very good that he's back in practicing, but you do wonder, he's looked off all season, and you have to think, are these injuries starting to pile up? And should the Bruins wait and not rush him back just to get a couple more points and try to finish in the top three in their division? Now we're going to talk about the two most important injuries for the Boston Bruins, but also the two injuries that we've gotten the least amount of updates on. We'll start things off with Hampus Lindholm. I first want to say you are going nowhere if you don't have Hampus Lindholm for this playoff run. Him and McAvoy have already become one of the top 10 NHL D pairs in my mind. He plays big minutes, helps you out at both ends of the ice. He would even help you out with your offensive struggles recently if he was in the lineup. But the Bruins' back end is by far their biggest weakness. As I said, even if you have a healthy Brandon Carlo, he hasn't looked the same. Matt Grzelcyk has kind of struggled when he's with anybody except for Charlie McAvoy. And honestly, I want Lindholm and McAvoy to play together so Grzelcyk would be with somebody else. And then watching all these guys like Mike Riley, Derek Forbort, Connor Clifton, Josh Brown, they will get eaten alive by Carolina, Tampa, or even Toronto for that matter. And I hope that's why the Bruins are taking it slow when it comes to Hampus Lindholm. We've heard day-to-day, we've heard week-to-week. He did skate today before Bruins practice, but didn't take part in practice, and we haven't really heard many updates recently from Bruce Cassidy. So I hope it's nothing too big with Hampus Lindholm. In fact, I hope he's almost fully healthy, and they're just giving him all the rest they can give him. Even though they need the points and the wins and to kind of get back on track here before the playoffs, it's far more important that this guy is 100% and ready to go for a playoff run, because he's going to be playing over 30 minutes a night during the playoffs, and you really need him to lock it down, because if you don't have him and McAvoy, you are absolutely screwed on the back end. I can pretty much repeat everything I just said when it comes to David Pastrnak. Like Hampus Lindholm, we've heard day-to-day, we've heard week-to-week. It sounds like it's a core injury for him. He also took part in the skate before Bruins practice today, but we haven't really gotten any further updates on his situation. The Bruins miss him just as much as they miss Hampus Lindholm, especially on the power play. It's obvious that he's their best goal scorer, and the power play runs through him a lot of the time. He also gives you a lot more depth. He's been fantastic on that second line with Taylor Hall. You could always reunite him with Bergeron and Marchand if you really needed to win a game in a playoff series, but I think the best way to go is having that 1-2 punch and giving them overall depth scoring, which is something they've desperately needed. So getting Pastrnak back as soon as possible is pretty important, but similar to Hampus Lindholm, I would rather give him a little bit of time to heal up if you can and not force him back into the lineup, because you're going to need him and his goal-scoring ability. This guy can go off for 3 goals a game at any point in a playoff series, and that's just so incredibly valuable. So give him all the time he needs to make sure he's ready to go, to light it up when it comes to playoff time. In any sport, but especially hockey, there's always the injuries you don't hear about. In fact, I love that old saying that you could probably go up to any guy, find something wrong with him, enough to keep him out of the lineup that night, but usually they don't talk about it and they just keep playing through it. Both Bergeron and Marchand didn't practice today. It was just a maintenance day so they could have it off. They're both older guys who need the rest. But again, that's 2 very important players that you're going to need, so give them all the rest they can get. But you have to imagine that both of them are probably dealing with a little something, and I'm sure there's plenty of Bruins. We've had guys like Craig Smith, Trent Frederic in and out of the lineup with little injuries and little nicks here and there. So you have to wonder, with all of these injuries piling up, is that going to derail the Bruins when it comes to their playoff run? So let me know your thoughts. Where's your concern level when it comes to these injuries? Who do you think they missed the most? Leave all that down below in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a big like, and if you haven't already, subscribe.